यार वो सुबह सुबह फिर बुला रहे हैं। हम्म। है ना, तो बस पहले तो हम बस कोई रोटी खत्म कर है तो मतलब है।
Good morning, Assalamu alaikum, students. Today we will revise Salmonella, which is also very important gram-negative rod, and I hope you know a lot about it. Salmonella is basically a gram-negative rod. It's a gram-negative rod, one of the important Enterobacteriaceae, and but they do not. The characteristics they have are that they do not produce lactose. They produce H2S, and there are certain antigens like other Enterobacteriaceae, like somatic cell wall antigen, pharyngel antigen, and capsular virulence factor is there. And O antigen are used to subdivide the salmonella from A to 1, and the two forms of H antigen like phase 1 and phase 2. Now, basically, why the this non-lactose fermenter gram-negative rod is important because it causes typhoid fever, which is very common in Pakistan and other Asian countries as well, and which is still as a vibe it's present endemically in special season of summer throughout the country and worldwide. There are three name methods for naming the Salmonella group, and Avids divide the genus into three different species, that is Salmonella typhi, Salmonella coeriosus, and Salmonella enteritidis. Second approach is to call the Kaufman and Wine assign different species names up to serotypes of 1500 different species. These are Salmonella enterica and Bongrai. These are important ones as per medical important diseases are concerned. Third approach is that the naming salmonella on the basis of relatedness to determine the DNA hybridization of its analysis. Salmonella species are basically those, typhoidal species are those that cause typhoid, and non-typhoidal species are those who do not cause typhoid but causes a diarrhea like other imaginary or enterocolitis causing diseases, and bacteria are there, and it might cause metastatic infections like osteomyelitis. So, no, the typhoidal species are S. typhi and S. paratyphi. The non-typhoidal species are Enteritidis and Corydaceae. You should know that the two which causes the typhoid basically are typhoidal as typhi and as paratyphi, while those non-typhoidal are as enteritidis and corydosis. Types of salmonella infections are enterocolitis, enteric fevers, and septicemia. How it causes transmission, the ingestion of food and water. So it's a fecal-root-borne disease, and it might cause due to the contamination through humans or animals. Chronic carriers who exceed the organism for years. This is a very important topic. What are chronic carriers? As I told you before in my early lectures, chronic carriers are those people who retain a bacteria to a certain extent in within themselves, that their quantity is not enough to cause disease in themselves, but they are very important in causing or transferring disease to other patients, to other people to make them patient of that particular disease. So those chronic carriers that retain the organism in themselves for more than 3 weeks and are able to spread this disease or gift them to the other people around them in their surroundings are called chronic carriers. The most frequent animal source in the poultry and eggs, and but the meat products that are inequivocally cooked are also indicated one of them. Dogs and other pets, including turtles, snakes, lizards, and iguanas, are the additional source of spreading salmonella. Pathogenesis. In enterocolitis, an invasion of the epithelium and subepithelium of the tissues, small and large intestines are very important. And in the organism penetrate to the through and between the mucous cells into the lamina propria, which results in inflammation and then cause diarrhea. Incubation period is 12 to 48 hours. Nausea, vomiting, like other gram-negative rods of enteric system, They cause nausea and vomiting, abdominal pain and diarrhea, which can vary from mild to severe and with or without blood. So it can cause diarrhea. It usually cause dysentery, which is blood like containing the diarrhea, or it can cause plain diarrhea as well. Usually the disease lasts for a few days, is self-limiting and causes non-bloody diarrhea. Now comes the typhoid, which is very important. Whenever the organism enter, multiply in the mononuclear phagocytes of the Peyer's patches of the intestines and then spread to the phagocytes of the liver, gallbladder, and spleen. This leads to bacteremia, which is associated with the onset of fever and other symptoms probably caused by endotoxins. Survival and growth of the organisms within the phagocytes or phagocytic cells are striking feature of this disease. And in the gallbladder, usually there is chronic state and carrier state in which the organism settle down inside the gallbladder, and excretion of the bacteria and the feces occurs for the long period of time as a patient becomes chronic carrier. The onset is very slow of the illness. Fever and constipation rather than vomiting and diarrhea predominates. So whenever there is a patient with a history of fever, prolonged fever, you should do what? You should rule out typhoid as well. Within the 7 days of onset and symptoms, it is very purely positive in the blood cultures, while it is not positive in the blood culture, is hardly positive after first week. So you can go for stool sampling or for urine culture if you want to rule out the typhoid organism. Then high fever, deliriumia, tender abdomen, and large spleen can also occur in severe cases. Whereas rose spots are also seen on the macule, like rose-colored macules are there. Those are called rose spots, and the abdomen are associated with the typhoid fever, but occur only rarely. Leukopenia and anemia are often seen, and the liver function tests are often abdominal, indicating hepatic involvement. Septicemia. Bacteremia results in seeding of the many organisms, and which results in the osteomyelitis, so pneumonia or meningitis, and this leads to the common sequelae of septicemia caused by Salmonella typhi. What are the complications? Intestinal hemorrhage, perforation of the gut, and hepatomegaly and splenomegaly are the major complications of the Salmonella typhoid. Now, this typhoid disease is very interestingly related to typhoid Mary, and that's why it's getting given typhoid fever name, because she was a cook and she was the one who delivered this disease to more than 100 people in a restaurant. It's about 1900, an Irish immigrant in America, the typhoid Mary. She was a cook by profession in America where there was a patient of typhoid. Mary harbored typhoid from her and then she became a carrier and she transmitted it to 1300 persons. Before coming to lab diagnosis, I would like to ask you a question for your intermittent attendance. What are the two types of typhoidal types or species of typhoid? What are the two typhoidal types of Salmonella which causes typhoid? You have to answer this question for your intermittent attendance. You have 2 minutes. What are the two different types of Salmonella which causes typhoid disease? What are the two different types of Salmonella which causes typhoid disease? What are the two different types of Salmonella which causes typhoid disease? Last time, what are the two different types of salmonella which cause typhoid disease? Okay, lab diagnosis. In the enterocolitis, the organism is most likely isolated from a stool, for example. In the enteric fevers, but a blood culture is procedure most likely to reveal the organism during the first 2 weeks of illness. But after that, urine and stool are the most appropriate specimens to rule out or to diagnose the Salmonella typhi culture. Bone marrow cultures are often positive, and stool cultures are also positive, especially in the chronic carriers in whom the organism is secreted through the bile. In culture, the salmonella forms non-lactose fermenting colorless colonies on the McConkey. As I have told you before that on the McConkey plate, if the color is same, that means this is same means pink color colonies are there. Then it means that the organism is lactose fermented. While if it is colorless, then it is non-lactose fermented. And it's true for all other non-lactose fermenting organisms, gram-negative rods, like salmonella. On TSI, an alkaline slant and an acidic butt will be there, frequently with the both gases and H2S positivity. Like it produces gas, there will be bubbling or there will be cracking of the media, and it will be black because H2S gas production is there. S typhi is the major exception. It has not formed gas and produces a very small amount of H2S. The salmonella isolates can be identified by grouped by agglutination method. So there are serotypes in which you put the antigen on the basis of A, B, C, D, E types, and then you put the serum on that. If the agglutination is there, that you can find out that which of the serotype is there when you find out the salmonella. Urine and stool cultures. Urine and stool container contains a salmonella from second week onwards, and the urine contains from third weeks onward. So after 2 weeks, you will not send blood culture for your stools for your culturing salmonella, but you will have to send the urine or stool as a sample. Bidar test, it is a very good test in the beginning because if people rely on the Bidar test to see whether the patient is having typhoid or not, and they should proceed for the culture or not. In certain cases of enteric fever and sepsis, when the organism is difficult to recover, diagnosis can be made serologically by detecting the antibodies and the antibody by titering the serum patient, in which you make the different. What is titering? It is dilutions. How you dilute the patient serum. For example, you have a pure serum, then you make a dilution of 10, then 20, 30, 40. Or either you go with this one or by 100, 10, 100, 1000, 10,000, and like that. So this is based on that one. There's a kit available on which you put different concentrations of the serum levels. What is the principle? The Twira test is basically tube agglutination test used in serological diagnosis of enteric fever. Patients suffer from the enteric fever who possesses antibodies in their serum and which can react and agglutinate serial doubling dilution of the killed or colored salmonella antigens in a test tube agglutination. And then you check on which concentration or which dilution point it is easily detectable for the patient. Titer of 100 or more for O antigen is considered significant, and a titer in excess of 200 for H antigen is considered significant. Now, titer of 100 means that you have made a pure salmonella patient serum diluted to 100 times. 100 of dilution of 100. Like there's 100 part of water and 1 part of the serum of the patient. At that time, if the antigen is still detected, the antigen is, you will give it a positive result. And it is for 200 for the H antigens. So this must dilution is important. If you see this one, that you put one saline and 1 drop of serum in here, now this is already diluted by one. If you put into the next tube from this tube, you will add one from this one and 1 drop of normal saline. So it is already diluted 2 times. Same you go for till 100, and then you will see where it will stand. You can see this plate. This is how we agglutination checked on the plate. If you see this one, there is the agglutination, here it is not. This is the same. You make dilutions and then you check the agglutination method of it. False withdrawal test can be there and false positive when there is an anesthetic reaction or the previous subclinical infection is there, or there is a cross reaction because of any other non-typhoidal salmonella or any other Enterobacteriaceae. So you have to rule out those histories as well. And false negative, why it will happen if the infection is in the first week, or the most cases of Blazarians and hypoproteinemia if the patient is already having liver disease or immunocompromised. In those patients, the false negative can also occur. Treatment. Enterocolitis usually is caused by salmonella, is self-limiting. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to give any antibiotics. Just go for the fluid and electrolyte replacement as we go for any diarrheal patient. But for the typhoid, the drug of choice is typhoid fever and enteric fever and septicemia, and metastatic disease is ceftriaxone or ciprofloxacin. A few weeks before, I've read many articles about it, and then the ciprofloxacin is still resistant. Then you will go to the next, that is your ampicillin or ceftriaxone. They have shown very good results against salmonella typhi. But ciprofloxacin is always the first choice. If you will go for that one and there's no improvement, then you have to move to the other disease drugs. Cholecystectomy may be required if you are more than 50% of sure that the patient is having a chorionic carrier state, because we don't want to produce another typhoid Mary. So that's why you have to remove their gallbladder from them. And the focal abscesses should be drained if they are there. Vaccination is also available. They are confer protection 50 to 80% of confirm protection against SIV, in which you are containing the VI capsular polysaccharide, and it is given intramuscular, and it is usually given to the patients who are more prone to spread the disease, like cooks. They are in good institutes or good restaurants. They are already vaccinated by this conjugate vaccine, and it is very important for the chronic carrier state, and you would prefer that. That's all for the typhoid and salmonella. If you have any questions, you can ask me. I will open you for unmuting yourself. If you want to ask anything, you should know this typhoid test and the withdrawal test is very important, and you should know what is typhoid, how it proceeds, what are the diseases which can cause what are the diseases which can be complications of the withdrawal test. If you have any question, you can ask me. Unmute yourself and then ask. Anyone? As you all know that when you will come, you will be having a test. You will be having your first test on the first term's course, and you should start preparing for that. So you should start now for preparing for your test. And I told you before in my last lecture that now your stand-up might be not happening. So these small tests will accumulate. The result of these small tests will accumulate you for your stand-up, and then that will be decided whether your examination is there or not. If you have any questions, you can ask, please. If you already understood everything, that's good. I'm really happy about it. Because if you don't ask anything, the teacher is sure that whether you have learned everything or you are not really interested in that. So please, you can ask any question if you want to.
Excuse me, ma'am, please repeat withdrawal test.
Okay, I will ask. Who is this, Hamna?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Basically, Hamna, what we do is that we take the patient serum and then we take normal saline. These two things are important for titration. What you do is basically you see the agglutination method, like you do in coagulase test of Staph aureus. You put the serum and you put the organism and you see if their white precipitates are there or not. Same thing we are judging here. for Salmonella to be present or not. But the only thing is that from the serum, we see how much high level of antibodies are present, which are getting reacted with the antigen of the patient. So what you will do is you make this the dilutions by 1:1 ratio. All right. As in my previous slide, I will show you in the simple manner. See, 1 drop of saline, 1 drop of serum, right? So what you will do is 50-50 concentration, then you make it dilutions of this. Next time, you will add 1 more drop of saline, so the serum of the patient will dilute again. Then into the next third tube, then there are 4 times dilutions because you have already started diluting the serum. Just you are adding on in every test tube 1 drop of normal saline. Serum level is say serum you take only 1 time in the first tube, and then you make dilutions. So see, if you want to see this, you can do it with any drink you have, your jam shiri or like this. It is colored. Any kind of normal saline or normal water of your drinking water is white. Take 1 drop of that jam shiri or red, any red serum you have, syrup you have for the cold drinks. Take 1 drop of that and 1 drop of saline. Then mix it well. It will be a good blood red colored serum or solution. Then you will take 1 drop of them to the next glass or next cup or next test tube, and then you put 1 more saline. You will see the color of the serum which was red in between. I'm not talking about serum. You have to think it as take it as serum, the red colored serum you are adding. Then you will see it will become lighter and lighter. Same goes for the serum concentration. Serum will be diluted as you enter 1 drop of normal saline in each test tube. Now you will see that how much less amount of serum is giving you positive agglutination method when you are adding the antigen of the patient, of the salmonella with that solution. Wherever you are getting this type of picture, this precipitation of the picture, this one, that will be your last dilution. If, for example, it is coming on 160, that means it's positive. That means that the serum contains that much salmonella that it is easily detectable at this much dilution. So after onwards from this one, it's positive. This is very easy if I told you before that if you do it on the other way. If you see this one, this is the red dots are showing you the serum of patient. Though it is not red when you take out the serum because RBCs are settled down, you just take the serum. But just to show you that if the red dots are there, that means the serum is there. When you dilute it at a specific level, there will be no red dots because you have diluted it so much. Like this one, it's just pinky kind of thing. So this is the main way or main principle that you dilute the serum that much that you see that how many salmonella are present at 1 ratio 160 dilutions. If it is there, that means that you have so much salmonella in your blood. The patient is typhoid positive. That's why it's having so much salmonella that you can see it even in the concentration of 1:160 ratio. So this is the typhoid withdrawal test. Anyone?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, if you have any other question, you can ask. Anyone else? Okay, guys, I will take off from now, and I hope you will have started already preparing for your first test. Good luck, and we are always there if you want to have any question. If not now, you can ask it on the WhatsApp page, the group we have with you, and me and Rouge definitely will reply to you. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.